Today, we are diving deep into a subject that's, well, it's pretty complicated and, frankly, a little uncomfortable. We're talking about the economics of war. We are going to follow the money to see who really benefits financially when countries are in conflict. And I think some of the answers are really going to surprise you. So, let's jump in.
So this is the big question, right? When you see conflicts break out on the news, a massive wave of money gets unleashed. I mean, it literally reshapes entire markets, and fortunes can be made almost overnight. But who's actually on the receiving end of all that cash? That's exactly what we're going to break down. All right, so here's our game plan. We're going to start with the most obvious player in all of this, the arms industry. Then, we'll uncover what might be a much, much bigger prize in the energy sector. We'll look at how geopolitics can totally flip markets on their head, run some truly staggering numbers on profit potential, and then, finally, we'll look at who's making the money versus who's shouldering the cost.
Okay, first up, the defense industry. Look, it's not exactly a secret that war is good for the weapons business. When conflicts heat up, countries aren't exactly shopping for olive branches, they're shopping for advanced weaponry.
And when it comes to selling those weapons, one country really is in a league of its own. Just look at this. The United States controls a whopping 40% of the entire global arms market. To give you some perspective, that is more than the next four biggest countries combined. That is just complete dominance.
So, what's fascinating here is just how fast the financial markets react. These are the stock price jumps for the biggest U.S. defense contractors right after the Russia-Ukraine conflict kicked off. We're talking huge gains almost instantly. That's the market betting on a flood of new orders coming down the pipe.
And you know what? That bet pays off. This isn't just about a one-time stock bump. We're talking about locking in massive, long-term revenue streams for years, maybe even decades. These numbers you see here, these are the current order backlogs. That's guaranteed future business that's already on the books. Just look at RTX, over $250 billion in future work already locked in. So the takeaway here is pretty straightforward. There's a direct financial link between how long a conflict lasts and how much profit there is to be made. More fighting means more weapons get used up, which means more orders to replace them. It's a very clear, if very unsettling, business model. But what if I told you this wasn't even the biggest moneymaker?
Yeah, because as insanely profitable as the arms trade is, it's not the whole story, not even close. There's another commodity out there that can pull in 2, sometimes even 3 times more profit from the exact same geopolitical chaos: liquefied natural gas, or as you'll see it, LNG. So, what on earth is LNG? Well, it's pretty simple, actually. You take regular natural gas and you cool it way, way down to negative 162 degrees Celsius. When you do that, it turns into a liquid. And here's the magic trick. Its volume shrinks by 600 times. Now, why would you do that? So you can pump it onto these enormous ships and send it literally anywhere in the world. And you have to understand, this whole process was a total game changer. It took a resource that used to be stuck, tied to a specific region by pipelines, and it turned it into a flexible global commodity, kind of like oil. Suddenly, a country with gas could sell it to any country that needed it. And that flexibility became a massive piece on the geopolitical chessboard. And the moment where this all just exploded onto the world stage was, of course, the war in Ukraine. That conflict didn't just redraw maps on the ground, it completely upended the entire global flow of energy. See, for decades, Europe and Russia had this relationship. Europe needed cheap energy to run its industries, and Russia needed Europe's money. Over 40% of Europe's natural gas came straight from Russian pipelines. But the second that invasion happened, those pipelines went from being an asset to a massive political liability. All of a sudden, Europe was in a desperate scramble to find a new energy supplier, and they needed one yesterday. And this right here, this is the golden opportunity. Because of the U.S. shale boom, America was sitting on a ton of super cheap natural gas. We're talking $2, maybe $4. But over in Europe, in the middle of this crisis, prices went through the roof. $20, $30, sometimes even higher. And that enormous gap between what it costs in the U.S. and what they could sell it for in Europe, that's pure profit. And the result of that huge price difference was an absolute windfall for U.S. energy companies. In just the first year of that conflict, they raked in an estimated $85 billion in pure profit just from selling LNG to Europe. $85 billion! And as incredible as that number is, believe it or not, it was just a warm-up. Okay, so now let's shift gears to a different part of the world. More recent instability in the Middle East threatened the supply from another huge LNG producer, Qatar. And when Qatar's exports got disrupted, the exact same dynamic played out, but the numbers got even bigger, creating an even wider opening for U.S. exporters to fill the gap. The profit potential from this new scenario is it's almost hard to wrap your head around. The disruption created a chance to make an extra $870 million in profit every single week.
Okay, so let's play that out. If that situation were to last for just 4 months, the potential profit was projected to be around $33 billion. Now stretch it to 8 months, and that number skyrockets to $108 billion. Hey, remember that $85 billion from the entire first year of the Ukraine war? Yeah, this blows past it in just 8 months. And if the disruption went on for a full year, the potential profit could hit a mind-blowing $170 billion. That would make it one of the largest single-year windfalls for any commodity in modern history.
And this chart really just puts it all in perspective. The potential profit from this second conflict scenario is literally double the profits from the Ukraine conflict. It just goes to show you how incredibly sensitive and profitable the global energy market is to any kind of instability. So, all of this leads to a pretty critical question. We've seen the astronomical, record-breaking profits being made. But who's on the other side of this equation? Who's footing the bill for all of this?
And this really is the paradox at the heart of the whole thing. On one side of the coin, you have a pretty small number of corporations posting the biggest profits they have ever seen. And on the other side, the sources we analyzed point to the burden that falls on the public. That can mean increased fiscal strain from huge foreign aid packages funded by taxpayers, or the ripple effects of volatile energy prices hitting the domestic economy, impacting everything from your grocery bill to jobs.
One of the sources we looked at had this fantastic, if a little cynical, analogy for how some of these international arms deals work. It perfectly captures that strange circular logic you sometimes see at play. Which really brings us to the final, lingering question of this whole explainer. When the numbers are this big, when hundreds of billions of dollars in profit are tied directly to how long and how intense a conflict is, you're forced to ask a tough question. What then is the purely economic incentive for a quick and lasting peace? It's a question with no easy answers, but one that is absolutely crucial to keep asking. Thanks for digging into this with us.